Welcome to the DIY Honda Garage channel. The Diagnostic Trouble Code, DTC P0462, indicates an issue with the fuel level sensor, specifically regarding the fuel gauge sending unit circuit's low voltage. This DTC affects the fuel gauge's ability to accurately measure fuel levels. The fuel level sensor, located in the fuel tank, serves the critical function of indicating the amount of fuel available to the engine. It does this by sending an electrical signal to the gauge control module, which then displays the fuel level on the dashboard. In this scenario, low voltage in the circuit likely means there's a fault somewhere along the wiring or components involved in this circuit. Ensuring the proper voltage is essential for the vehicle's fuel management system to function effectively, maintaining the engine performance and preventing any unforeseen breakdowns due to fuel depletion. In conclusion, DTC P0462 symbolizes a fault within the fuel level sensor circuit, primarily rooted in issues of low voltage in the wiring or components. Accurately diagnosing the problem involves a systematic approach, addressing each potential cause methodically. Both the fuel gauge sending unit and the gauge control module merit thorough evaluation to ensure proper functionality. Emphasizing the importance of proper testing methods ensures that repairs made address the actual issue rather than resulting from guesswork. Finally, incorporating preventive measures into routine vehicle maintenance can significantly lower the chances of encountering this DTC in the future, promoting a smoother and worry-free driving experience. The fuel level sensor, a key component in the fuel management system, is primarily found within the fuel tank of the Honda Accord. Its role is to measure the fuel level and send this information as an electrical signal to the gauge control module. The gauge control module interprets this signal and displays the current fuel level on the dashboard, allowing drivers to monitor fuel consumption accurately. If the circuit exhibits low voltage, which is indicated by DTC P0462, the reading on the fuel gauge may not reflect the actual fuel level in the tank. The error could arise from issues like poor connections, damaged wiring, or faults within the fuel gauge sending unit itself. Understanding the functionality of these components is vital for identifying the source of the problem effectively during troubleshooting. Several factors may lead to the occurrence of DTC P0462. Poor connections at the dashboard gauge or at the fuel gauge sending unit can impede the accurate transmission of signals necessary for proper gauge reading. Loose terminals can also disrupt the circuit functionality, causing intermittent issues where the gauge may work at times but not consistently. Another critical factor is the possibility of shorted wiring, particularly along the fuel gauge plus wire, which connects the gauge control module to the fuel tank unit. Lastly, the fuel gauge sending unit itself can be faulty, either from internal damage or wear and tear due to age or environmental factors. Detecting the exact cause will require careful examination and testing of these elements during troubleshooting. Symptoms associated with DTC P0462 primarily revolve around the fuel gauge's performance. An erratic fuel gauge may fluctuate wildly or fail to respond to changes in the fuel level, resulting in inaccurate readings that can mislead the driver regarding available fuel. This inaccuracy may trigger warning lights on the dashboard, signaling a malfunction within the fuel system. Additionally, the vehicle's onboard diagnostic system may store this DTC in memory, enabling technicians to identify the problem during diagnostic checks. Many drivers may also notice a lack of consistent fuel level indications, creating anxiety during long trips where fuel management becomes critical. Observing these symptoms should prompt immediate attention to avoid being stranded due to fuel depletion. To initiate the troubleshooting process for DTC P0462, Start by turning the ignition switch to the on position. If your model is equipped with a push-button start, simply press the button to activate the on mode. Once the ignition is on, use the Honda Diagnostic System, HDS, to clear any existing diagnostic trouble codes. Clearing the codes is crucial, as it allows you to check for active or pending DTCs post-clearance. After clearing, wait for approximately 5 seconds for the system to reset properly. Finally, use the HDS once again to check if DTC P0462 appears as a confirmed fault. If DTC P0462 is indicated, the issue has been duplicated, prompting you to proceed with further troubleshooting. If not, it might suggest an intermittent problem. Hence, checking for loose connections or poor contacts is advised. The second step involves checking for shorted wires in the fuel gauge plus line. Start by turning the ignition switch to the lock position to ensure no power is going through the system. Next, carefully remove the gauge control module to access the necessary connectors. Disconnect both the fuel tank unit 4P connector and the gauge control module connector A32P. This step allows you to isolate the wiring for testing. Continue by checking for continuity between the specified test points, which is critical for identifying faults in the wire. Specifically, check between the fuel tank unit 4P connector number 2, gray wire, and the body ground. If continuity exists, this indicates a short circuit in the fuel gauge plus wire, which needs to be repaired. The third troubleshooting step involves conducting a thorough test of the fuel gauge sending unit. Testing this component will help determine whether it functions correctly. If the gauge sending unit is found to be operational, the next logical step would be to replace the gauge control module, as this could be the root of the issue. Conversely, if the fuel gauge sending unit is determined to be faulty, it must be replaced to restore optimal fuel level reporting. Properly diagnosing each part is essential, as replacing functional components can lead to unnecessary costs and time. Thus, meticulous testing should guide your decision-making in repairs. After completing the necessary repairs for DTC P0462, a final verification process is crucial. Begin by carefully reassembling all components that were removed or disconnected during the troubleshooting process. Reconnect the vehicle's battery to restore power to the systems. Once power is reinstated, use the HDS to clear any DTCs that might still be present in the system. Subsequently, conduct a test drive of the vehicle to ensure that the fuel gauge is functioning correctly and that the DTC does not reappear. It is essential to monitor the fuel gauge's behavior, confirming both accuracy and functionality. This verification step ensures that the repair work has adequately addressed the underlying issue, leading to a reliable fuel management system. Preventive maintenance is a vital aspect of avoiding DTC P0462 in the future. Regular inspections of the electrical connections linked to the fuel gauge are crucial. This includes checking for signs of wear, corrosion, or damage at the connections. Additionally, monitoring the behavior of the fuel gauge can provide early warning signs of impending issues. Drivers should pay attention to any unusual fluctuations or readings on the gauge to catch problems before they escalate. Ensuring all terminals remain securely connected will help reduce the chances of intermittent faults. Finally, performing routine maintenance checks on the electrical systems and relevant components will prolong their lifespan and enhance reliability, thus minimizing the risk of encountering DTC P0462 again. Please like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.